Welcome to the Austin School of Furniture podcast, brought to you by, well, the Austin School of Furniture. We're a fine furniture school in Austin, Texas, offering classes of all lengths to all woodworkers of all skill levels. Join the ASF staff as we talk furniture making, how to grow as a craftsperson, and interview incoming instructors. Thanks for listening. All right. Hello and welcome to the Austin School of Furniture podcast. I'm Austin Waldo. I'll be your host today, and this is episode 6, and I am interviewing Kevin Bley. Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Austin.
Yes. Well, you're here pretty much every day working up in the front retail store.
Yeah,
so we figured
we're office mates.
This guy that's here, let's put him in front of the podcast while we've...
It's like The Office, but with sawdust.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what are you doing up there? I guess that'll be the first thing.
Yeah, that's where I have
Who are you and what do you do?
That's where I have my retail space. So I am a dealer of tools. I have a Festool dealership here in Austin that spans from the East Coast to the West Coast, not just outside of Texas, and sell saw stop and Tenaroo blades. And yes, I just sell tools, and usually it's just my job to help people and then take their money. And as long as, and that's kind
exchange of goods and services.
Yeah. So it's fun. I mean, it's not what I thought I would be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we met a long time ago through my woodworking club.
Yeah.
We actually did a event at Treehouse, which I guess you'd call kind of like a sustainable, eco-friendly Home Depot.
Yeah, it's like the Whole Foods of Home Depot, or
the
Home Depot meets Whole Foods.
Yeah.
So that's what brought me to Austin.
Okay.
And that's also where I kind of met and fell in love with Festool, and we've been crushing ever since.
Right. And so you worked there for a while.
Yeah, about two and a half years, and then like startups do, some of them don't get to the finish line.
Right. And then you were just doing cabinetry and
carpentry is my background. Mm-hmm. My dad was a carpenter, so I have been, I think I sort of count my start is when my dad actually started paying me. So that would have been when I was 12. Mm-hmm. So that's 35 years of being in the field in one way or another with some short breaks. But since I was 12, I've been around the trades. Never had to, the first time I had to make a resume for a job, it was pretty disorienting because job sites don't work that way.
Yeah.
It's like, can you do it? Or do you know the guy?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, just George is coming and his son's going to be with him and we're going to build X, Y, or Z. So,
just figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And luckily my dad and the guy that kind of apprenticed him were really, really good carpenters.
And so you learned from your dad. Was your dad in a traditional apprenticeship, as you'd say, or?
Not until he met one carpenter in particular. So it was, he always calls it his primitive days.
Okay.
Because we grew up in a farmhouse in Indiana that was built in like the 1870s.
Okay.
And so it's the only house my parents have ever owned. And so since like 1976, July of like 76, they've been working on this house. And so he just started doing it because there was, no money and just ambition. And eventually, it's funny, he actually was in tool sales. And I'm realizing now that's where I find myself. So that's
like the old Sears catalog of tools, or?
No, I think he was a traveling salesman for pneumatic power tools. And
okay. That's great.
So he's always been kind of a good salesman. My dad can talk to anybody and he's an enjoyable person. So, so I found myself back in tool sales, but so he was doing that, but traveling a lot, and took him to some interesting places. It allowed him a surplus supply of waterbed bladders, which we use to make our own personal slip and slide in our field. So for one whole summer, we had our own, basically, slip and slide down into the valley of our field. So
where did the waterbed bladders come from?
Waterbed companies.
Oh.
Who use the nail guns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think I missed that part.
Yeah. So when you live like way out in the country, you entertain yourselves.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was some weird like country collection thing. Your dad was a collector of waterbed bladders or something.
No,
like that.
you have to be opportunistic. and then you find fun along
never
the way.
know when you're going to need a waterbed bladder.
When you want to make your own water slide.
Yeah.
So you lay them things open, you get to the bottom, you keep the one that's in good shape, and then you hit a ramp and you land on it.
Okay.
And you run back up the hill, and I mean, you just entertain yourselves.
Okay.
So it's fantastic. It was a simpler
like
time. There's, dirt to, we grew up on well water and gravel roads and, antennas and rotary phones, it was, basically homesteading. Yeah. So, but always grew up around building and fixing and doing. And so then when my dad got in with two guys who were really, really good carpenters, that's what kind of leveled his game up. Mm-hmm. And then I would work with them, around 12, 13. And as I was a teenager, almost every summer I was building a house.
Yeah. When you were 12 or 13, were they paying you?
$5 a day.
Okay.
Which was too much for what I was bringing to the table.
The big bucks.
Yeah. But considering my ability, and if he paid for my lunch, it was a net loss. So, but yeah, it was cool. It's just what everyone did. Mm-hmm. My brothers, my youngest brother is a heavy machinery mechanic. My oldest brother has an engineering background, but everyone in my family can strip a truck down and rebuild it, or a tractor. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not particularly mechanically inclined, but I think I'm a better carpenter than all of them at this point. Mm-hmm. So, which feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're collecting skills as a family.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah. Now collecting skills, after not working with him and finding new people to work with. So.
Okay. Yeah. And then you were then at Treehouse, and you were the Festool guy at Treehouse.
Yes.
Or was that after the fact?
No, I kind of always was, and kind of just enjoyed the sales process, got into that world. And it was that I took that job as kind of a career pivot. I just was not enjoying what I was doing. I was living in St. Louis. I'd been there for 12 years, and loved the city. Beautiful historic place, working on all kinds of cool old houses. Mm-hmm. Found out about Treehouse, and I was like, decided to just, see what would happen. And within 6 weeks, had a job offer, and my wife and I are looking at each other like, are we doing this? And we had twin boys that were 4 at the time. And so we decided to go for it.
Okay.
And it's interesting, even though in that 2-year process, I did so many things I wouldn't have done on my own, met a ton of people, who you get in these startups, you're asked to do things you're not normally doing. But you also have maybe some adjacent skill sets. That's not the exact job, but you've had enough life experience, you'll probably figure it out. Or at least a version that'll move the ball forward. So I think that experience was invaluable in teaching me that I can try things that I haven't done before. There's probably skills that I have that I'm not using, entirely. And so the Festool piece kind of came together, and as the store was closing, the buyer for our company, who was my Festool guy, who taught me, he was like, I think you could sell Festool.
Okay.
And I was like, they are definitely not going to let me do this out of my garage. That's insane. And within 8 weeks, I placed my opening order 5 years ago, and just started it as a side hustle. I had to get back into carpentry to make ends meet. Yeah. And started doing trim out work and things like that, and then learned to. One of the things I wanted to do was try to specialize more, just practically because I was tired of having so many different tools for so many different jobs. I'd done handyman stuff for people and everything, and I was over I need to have drywall stuff this time. It's I just want to specialize in carpentry. And then as I got into trim stuff and realized that I was over 40 and every single door they were asking me to hang was 8 feet tall and heavy, I was like, and the houses weren't air conditioned, and Texas is hot as hell. I was like, is there a better way? And then a friend of mine asked me for some help to install cabinets, and the job site was air conditioned. Okay. And I was like, is this normal? And he's like, yeah. He's like, they have the climate control. And I was like, this is where I need to be.
And is that just the order of operations where the kitchen cabinets would come in is further down the line than doors?
Yeah. Well, usually the job is sealed up, and especially in higher end jobs, once you get the job to drywall and tape, usually there's some sort of climate control. And at least the cabinets we were doing, especially if it's hardwoods, it would void the warranty. So, and you don't want to void the warranty on $300,000, $500,000 in cabinets. So, part of it was okay, cool, I get to specialize. I also am working in a place that's insanely hot about 6 months out of the year. So that kind of lined up to like for the last, 3.5 years, all I did was install cabinets and custom jobs, and then was running the business on the side and try to growing it and sort of trying to be the Festool guy in Austin and help people, and met you, kind of re-met you again to help me with my website, texastoolcraft.com. It works beautifully because of this guy. And so it was always just a side hustle and kind of watching it grow.
And you were just selling stuff out of your garage at that point.
Basically, yeah. It was the first 3.5 years. It was out of my garage, and was fortunate enough to just like kind of go like this, like 30, 40, 50%.
Yeah. I did feel like we were kind of doing some sort of shady deal, though, the first time I bought a tool from you.
People roll up, the garage door opens.
Send you the money. And
just send me the money and let me know when you're coming.
Yeah, I'll put it on the porch, hide it.
No, I've had people put cash under my doormat before, and it's, you just kind of have to make do with what you have and be scrapped, because you can't, especially in Austin and in a lot of places where things start up, like space is expensive and overhead, and it's like, so you just try to leverage, and like, what people do out of their 2-car garages. Like, 'cause a lot of times I was selling to people who were trying to do a hobby or make a business out of a 2-car garage. Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to help you. And these tools, allow it to happen. So it works really well. So I have, just really enjoyed that, and working with tradespeople and knowing that, obviously, with my kind of life experience, and sometimes meeting them on a job, or just having the practical experience of like using this stuff. And it really kind of, at least for me, I was kind of done with enjoying carpentry at all. And Festool was the first time in what seemed like 5 years where I started to enjoy this again. And I think it was not just that what the tools could do, but like there's just an existential value of using something that's made well, whether, picking up a great hand plane or anything. And so there was a real joy that kind of came back into carpentry to making, and then I could do it well, I could work clean, and it just felt like professional and enjoyable. And so that's really kind of where my passion comes from in doing this. It's like it changed how I was able to work and enjoy my work. And so I was like, I'd like to share that with other people.
Yeah. No, I get it. And Festool is great. We're not sponsored by them yet. But if you have a cheap tool, then anything you're doing, you're having to fight the tool. And how does this work? How should it work? And why is it not working? Can it do this? Can it not do this? But if you have a tool that works well, whether it's Festool or some other brand, it just makes things that much easier. Yeah,
I think a really good tool goes beyond working for you. It works with you. It's additive. And that's the most you can ask from a tool. There's always skill and ability, but at some point in your career, you start to add tools that don't just get the job done. They actually are additive, and so they work with you. And that's been my experience, to where like I just like, if I don't have a track saw with me in my hand, like I'm not. It's just part of my hand at this point.
You get the shakes.
Yeah, exactly. I get the shakes, and I'm just like, I've been asked to modify so many things on these jobs, and I just don't blink. I'm like, I got a track saw on the Domino, so you can throw at me what you want. I'm pretty sure I can turn it into what you would like, know? And so, yeah, it feels good, and it's, but you're right about the tools. And it's just like with building any business, you kind of hit the tipping point where you go in on your first thing. And usually once you get the first taste of something really good, it's hard to kind of go back.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. Well, let's take a quick coffee break, and then we'll be right back.
All right.
So one question we always ask everybody on the show is, if you personally were a tool, what would you be?
Oh, man. I'm a mess, so I don't think I meet the standards of the tools that I sell. So what I aspire to be is a track saw. Oh my gosh. It's just, it just makes me happy.
So that means you'd be like, a battery powered children's skill saw? That's kind of
the little things you push that have the dome on them that pop up and throw the little beads up, like that's
the kids' lawnmowers.
Yeah, that's what I am.
Okay.
But what I want to be is aspirational.
Okay.
And so
you've got goals.
Yeah, it's like I try to. Sometimes you get a thing that's better than your ability, and it's not just the tools. Like my first guitar that I bought was a Taylor 400 series.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very nice acoustic guitar. And I was like freaked out to play it when I first had it. Mm-hmm. But I was around people that played guitar and I knew what sounded really good. And I was able to like swap out a bunch of stuff, and I was single. So I could just throw, it's like $800 in an acoustic guitar, which seems insane.
Yeah. You didn't just put it in the corner until you got to that level.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I don't, even though I've had that guitar forever, like I don't think I'm ever going to be as good as the quality of the guitar. And so, yeah, I think, with like tools, like sometimes they kind of force you to level up, and it's like, I can't do average work with this quality of tool. I've got to be better, one, cause I probably need to pay for it. And two, it demands it. It's like, you just can't be, not care about what you're doing when you're working with something that works really well. But yeah, track saw just makes me happy. And it was like, first time my mind was kind of blown. I was like, oh, that's nice. And then you look at that cut, and then you're like, especially once I got into like the world of cabinets, like I don't know how you install a kitchen without one. So I'm sure obviously people did it way before. I mean, my dad did stuff before with, like, he didn't get a freaking nail gun or framing nailers till like the early 2000s. So I grew up
doing it by hand. Yeah.
I was thinking about the other day, I have at least driven 50,000 nails in my life, probably more, because like even when we did decks before deck screws, they had little twist galvanized number 8 nails, and a 50-pound box had, I think, 5,000 nails in it. I can remember one job where I went through 2 of those boxes myself. So yeah, there's nothing like building character by just driving nails and getting good at it and honing your craft by like hammering properly. And if you don't do it right, you'll get blisters pretty badly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does make you appreciate, all the finer things, and all the automation and everything when you've done it a different way, whether you have to use hand tools before you, get to planers and surfacing machines and all the way up to CNC machines.
Yeah. Or are you doing very many projects on your own for yourself, or is it all for other people?
It's almost always for other people. So the first, this last year was the first time like I built like a proper piece of furniture for myself. And I got this massive oak cookie from Harvest Lumber Company, sponsor. And it was cool. It was cool to try some stuff. And I mean, it's a cookie, so I don't have to build anything, but it was, all the sanding and application and just learning things, and how many crevices are in a giant piece of oak. And it was like 2 liters of epoxy later. I was like, oh, this is way more than I thought it was going to be. And then actually took it to a Rubio Festool event of all places, and was kind of finishing it on the side while they were doing that.
Okay.
And just to get to work, just to have the satisfaction that after, you do all this work, and then someone else gets to enjoy it. Especially if it's a piece you're into. So to have it in the living room and be like, oh my gosh, I did this, and people ask about it. And, so I'm trying to do some more things for myself, because everything that I've done in all of my career, apart from, remodeling our own personal kitchens like twice, just home remodels on our house, then it's usually for someone else. Yeah. So it's a typical thing where the craftsman's, home is the last thing to, the cabinet makers, so the doors are falling off,
Yeah. Cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Yeah, that's it. Cobbling, which we can get into. But yeah, so it's good to make something for yourself and try some things. And it's also cool, like, being here at the school and seeing what people are doing, or what I get to see people making either for themselves or professionally. It is so cool. Yeah.
Because you're popping in and out every day and seeing all the classes and what's happening.
I'm seeing classes. I'm seeing people's shops. My customers love to share what they're up to, or they're looking for the thing to do the thing. And so I get to talk about it and see what they're into. It's really cool. So to be plugged into such a creative community, it's really inspiring. And it's like, oh, I want to try that now.
Or coming in and critiquing Phil's domino technique always.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Morley is a whole subject. He's an inspiration to both of us. But yeah, I'll pop in and be like, what if we did it this way? You know, I don't want to undermine it. But it's like, there is a proper way to do a plunge on the domino. But it is cool. It's like, you know, I'm just trying to get some work done. And then like during the intensive, like Phil starts talking about how a drawer box should be made. And it is fascinating.
Yeah.
And to think about how, you know, especially like just a regular kitchen drawer box is, most of these shops don't even make their own drawer boxes. There's companies that do it dedicated, and it's, you know, it's usually dovetailed if it's nice, it's together. And that's one way to make it. But they're thinking about, you know, will this last 20 years? And Phil's talking about, will this last 100 years? And so just the different ways to think about it and how much you want it to endure, and then how that affects your building process. You know, it's not something I normally touch on, but then getting to see that and hear someone talk about it, it's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can start dovetailing all your...
No, I have, again, remember the pop-up lawnmower thing? That's me. Like, I've seen Frank Straza hand cut. I've seen him stand here and sharpen chisels, and I'm like, I admire it for other people, but I don't think I have the time or the patience to learn that skill and then find the satisfaction in it. You know, I'm really just trying to make sure my grass is mowed and my kids are alive, and you know, and maybe I'll get more into that. So my grandfather was like that. My grandfather would just get himself into something and did stained glass as a hobby, just because he enjoyed it, and then got into wood carving, and then he made puzzles, like puzzles you had to solve. And so every time we would go over to his house, he'd have like a new one. He had a puzzle book and how to make it. And so he'd like set this down in front of us and have us solve it.
I like that. My grandpa just told jokes, but he would tell the same jokes.
Oh.
And forget that he had told you 2 weeks ago.
That sounds like every phone call with my dad at this point. So, but some jokes are good, you know. It's like
classic.
Yeah. Why don't you see elephants hiding in trees?
I don't know.
Because they're good at it. That's top shelf, and you should hear that every time you see me. So,
I also had an Uncle Doyle that would do the exact same magic trick every time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like Grandpa we saw all the time. Uncle Doyle you see maybe every 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was the one about the whole story with like the jacks going up to hold the building, and there's like a fire, you know, this whole elaborate story.
Yeah.
And it probably, you know, started when we were 4 or 5, 6, something like that. And of course we were amazed. And then over the years, the story got worse and worse, and we got older, and our tolerance was like, okay.
Yeah.
And at some point it was just like, you know, the cards were, half of them were missing. It wasn't actually 4 jacks. And but
it was a comedy that turned into a tragedy.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So let's talk Texas Woodworking Festival. You're going to be there.
Oh man, you're going to see me as soon as you walk in the doors, and it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll probably be just like buzzing.
Jamming.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about it. This is, you know, the Texas Woodworking Festival is the school's event that we produce every year, and you can get tickets now at texaswoodworkingfestival.com. And it's everything from live music, food, and beer to large tool manufacturers, small garage luthiers, content creators, furniture makers, lumber yards, everything in between.
Yeah.
And, you know, you probably as a retailer are going to have a booth or two selling some stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have a full, probably based on this, probably 2 to 3 full demo stations of Festool, and mostly Festool. We'll see if we can squeeze SawStop in there and blow up some hot dogs.
There's a bunch in the freezer that they left here last time.
Oh, that's right. So we have unused hot dogs. I have like probably half a dozen demo breaks, and I have 10 fingers. I have this. Hang on, let's see. This one right here was not cut in half because of a SawStop. So I was already annoying about SawStop, but after this, and like didn't even break the skin, guys.
You're a believer now.
Oh yeah, because you just don't. You just have to not pay attention once. And we will all do that at some point, and hopefully you don't pay for it.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, it's just a no-brainer. And I'm glad to have the 10 fingers that I came into this world with. I'm hoping to leave with all 10 too. But yeah, it's going to be, interactive demo. The last woodworking festival was amazing. I don't think I moved from my spot for like 6 hours. It was just exciting. So this is going to be bigger, 2 days. I'll probably need an IV drip or something to kind of get through it.
Hook up some food and drinks right to you. So
just taco me. I'm going to have a sustainer full of tacos and 5-hour energy.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of go under the table and grab them. But yeah, and I'll probably have, hopefully some Festool people there, and also just other users in the Austin community. It's kind of cool. I've got people who are, I just call them power users, but they really love the system too. And so I've had multiple different customers just come and help me.
Oh, okay.
Because they have their own experience.
Almost like an ambassador program.
Yeah, exactly. The last Festool experience we had here, my guy Marvin from European Kitchen Installs, he's got all of it, and
he's got that sweet van.
Yeah, he's got a van, and it's just totally tricked out, and he shows the system and why it works and how he can make it all work. And so people like that can come and I know a couple characters, so some interesting people. Got a couple Australians I can bring if I need to.
Yeah, hopefully we can get Brian Sedgley down here.
Sedge, come on, it's Texas. Come at us. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be exciting to especially put it in a space that I think kind of will be able to handle the bigness of the event, because we had a giant event in a small space last time with lines around the block.
We're just getting bigger every year, and that's hopefully we're going big enough to support everything.
No, I'm excited. So and it promotes, it brings a cool community together. It promotes a craft, and it supports the school, which is just amazing. So,
are there any top secret Festool tool releases that you might be debuting?
By then, this year, there'll be the Cordless Capex is about to drop, but by the summer there should be a new track saw out.
Okay.
And maybe the Cordless Table Saw, but I think I should have the new
Cordless Table Saw.
Cordless digital table saw, in a sustainer. It's the future.
Oh, I did see a video of that recently. That has the dial on the front.
Yeah, it's fully. It does everything. So, and it's just boom, boom, and it's kind of the.
It's one of those things you see and just I want that.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of if the
I don't know what I would do with it. But
the maintenance guy from Star Trek would have something be bleep, bleep. He's or maybe he would just prototype it. I don't know. 3D print it. Man, 3D printing. It's the future.
I've always thought. It's in Star Wars, they have furniture.
Oh, yeah.
Are there galactic furniture makers? Whether for the Empire or the Resistance, or even at the Jedi Temple, is there a Jedi furniture maker?
There would have to be. I mean, I just assume Phil Morley learned what he learned at Hogwarts, but I would think that there's got to be people like him, doing that stuff. So.
It's Hogwarts is up on the hill, but you go around the back and there's a local community trade school.
It's just what's that humming sound? It's they're just planing down there. Yeah. No, because where does that furniture come from? Exactly.
Well, if anybody knows anything about Jedi furniture makers, I would like to know.
Exactly.
Leave us a comment.
Good grief. If there's one thing the Empire needed, it was a better focus on craft, because they built the same thing twice, both flawed. So you got to prototype that stuff.
See, now I'm going to have to pull back up those photos that we have from 2019, the Austin Makers Fair, where we were there as the school, but Makers Fair had a whole bunch of random stuff, and it had the really big official group of people with the costumes. The 501st.
Maybe there's a lightsaber guild. I saw them this weekend.
Very
at
official costumes,
Lego festival
and whatever. Yeah. But I went over and asked them, I was hey, will you come to our booth and just woodwork, and I'll take some photos. And so I have a bunch of pictures of stormtroopers with Lee Nelson hand planes and chisels. And of course, they can't really see what they're doing. So one of the guys is holding the plane backwards. And it's
that sounds like a stormtrooper.
Yeah, they can't shoot, so they can't also hand plane. So
I would think, being that woodworking is therapeutic, I would think if Darth Vader had a shop, maybe he'd have been a better spot. Just work it out, man.
Yeah,
go build a chair.
Him and Luke could have gotten together a long time ago.
Exactly. It's we're just gonna do a father-son project this weekend.
Yeah.
It's well, you cut my hand off, so it's gonna be a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
They could have built a hand.
Yeah. Why don't you hold the flashlight for me?
A wooden Happy Gilmore style.
Exactly.
hand
Exactly. So
shoves.
I'm sure the Star Wars world would have been different with more craftsmen. So
I agree. Food for thought. Maybe next episode.
part 2 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be here, so I'm sure you'll be on the show multiple times.
Yeah. We'll pop in and talk about the pressing issues of the time.
Yes. All related to woodworking and Star Wars.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, if anybody out there wants to find you, how do they do so?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Texas Toolcraft, website, texastoolcraft.com. Soon to be YouTube. Finally going to start trying to capture what I show people in person so that you can be like, hey, how do you use the track saw? Or like, explain to me this system, like doing stuff like that to orient big picture and smaller picture. Just trying to get my experience that I think my customers enjoy and have and kind of scale it on the future of the internet. So
I think it's going to be a big thing, the internet.
I'm going to get in this year early.
Yeah.
So try to cash in.
Same thing. Like 7 years later, we're starting a podcast. We just wanted to make sure that podcasts were going to stick before we got into it.
There are not enough. So, well, right after this one, we got to jump on another one about stuff to eat at Buc-ee's. So,
is there really a Buc-ee's podcast?
Trademark. There is now. I don't know what we're going to call it, but we'll have a podcast about each Buc-ee's and what's unique about it. So, Austin and I have to go to Bastrop after this and get some salted caramel beaver nuggets, which are delish.
All right. With that, salted sea nugget, carrot nuggets. Is that what you call them?
I'll get you a bag, and then you'll be clear about it. We'll be crunching them on the microphones next time. Perfect. So good.
Well, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Until next time.
Cheers.